Shout out Bird. Hey. These people do not understand. I'm moving as fast as I can. Sending my prayers to God. He doing whatever he can.
Beautiful people, what's up, man? It's your boy Schmidt, man. We hanging out this morning. Check me out. You know what I'm saying? How I do. Sit down, unwind, relax. I know y'all was probably out doing the thing last night. You still trying to get this weekend adjusted to your daylight savings time. You had an extra hour to turn up and do what you do. So, man, get up. My father used to say like this. He used to say, hey, man, drink what bit you last night. Drink what bit you last night. That's the only way you're going to get right, people. You know what I'm saying? So wake up, get the crust out your eyes, feel yourself, get your drink. We're going to be in and out like 35, 45 minutes, like I always do. Housekeeping tips real quick. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Tap in. Leave a comment. You know what I'm saying? If you're watching it on replay, it's all good. Make sure you share it. You feel me? Do what you do with it. This is Black Madness March, just playing on the words. You know what I'm saying? Our culture is always, I don't want to say under attack, but it's always in the process of being infiltrated. You know what I'm saying? We take all the good things, put it out there, and then capitalism has a way of just coming and devouring or I want to be, it corrupts our greatness of what we do. It takes it and puts a little twist on it. You know what I'm saying? So, today, I have the awesome privilege of introducing and bringing to my show a wonderful young lady that I've only met virtually. And that's the great thing about technology and where we are today. Social media has made the world so much smaller. Networking possibilities are a little bit more easier. You know what I'm saying? You don't really have to get out there and pound the pavement. I mean, I still do that. Don't get me wrong. I'm an old guy, but, just being in the virtual world creates a energy of networking where, one thing leads to another. So I ran into this young lady online, seen the work she was doing, tapped in, introduced, said, hey, can you come on the show? She was totally cool with it. You know what I'm saying? We were supposed to be on last week. Things happened, but it was all good. You know what I'm saying? Because here you go with me. I'm organic. Everything I've done since the beginning of trying to do this has been organic. I don't rush nothing. I don't push nothing. I don't coerce nothing. If I ain't got nothing to say, you see me, I don't pop on, because I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to make sure I come with some quality, some essence, you know what I'm saying, to this thing right here. So without further ado, because I want to be respectful of her time, I want to introduce to you I'm gonna call her a friend. I'm gonna call her a friend until she tells me not to. You see, she a coach. So listen, people. It's Sunday. You might need some coaching tips. Mrs. April Nowlin, how are you this morning, sis?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for making time and allowing me to share your space. We was talking before we came on. Just about the hectic lifestyle of being a parent and sports. So again, I want to thank you for your time and making space today. Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Right on. So I want to say this. I'm going to read off what I know of you. And then you can feel free to fill in the gaps or, see where I missed. And I'm going to save the first one that I wrote down for last because I don't want to scare the people away just yet. But we have a certified life guide, author, keynote speaker. And I think that's what drew me. Is that a word, Drew? I failed English, so don't trip. The attraction was the author and the keynote speaker, workshop facilitator, and marketing executive, and certified divorce recovery and relationship coordinator. Did I cover everything?
I think you covered pretty much everything. Yeah.
Cool. Tell us about the book. You're an author. What book? Tell us about the book. You got a book, 3 books, five books. How do people can get it?
Yeah, so I have written one book and then I was part of an anthology for a second book. So the first book is called Move the Finish Line. So I wrote
Mm,
this book as part of my healing journey after my third divorce, which I'm sure we're probably going to talk about.
of course.
But I wrote it initially as therapy for myself.
Mhm.
And then I realized that, you know what? I think other people would benefit from this. And just full transparency, God was like, you need to tell your story. And I was like, I don't want to tell people I've been married 3 times. Like, absolutely not. Like, why would I do that?
Right.
But what I realized happened is when I wrote the book, not only was it healing for me, but a lot of people that read it, they're like, oh my gosh, like I can relate to this story. This is my journey. So
Mhm.
that's my book. You can get on Amazon, you can get on my website, but it's called Move the Finish Line. And it's really my authentic journey from trying to figure out how did I get it into these 3 terrible relationships and
Right.
what to do to not get into them again.
I want to say this to you. I appreciate you. Uh, and I'm going to say it just like this. I appreciate you sharing your dirty laundry. I know sis got a song airing our dirty laundry. And I think it is for me because of what I've doing, what I've been doing. I used to have a show. I partnered with a show, two of my brothers, and we had a show called The Third Show. And we used to worry about being on. And I said, man, why do black folks keep worrying about airing our dirty laundry? If they think we're going to be late, then let's just be late. If they think we're this, let's just be this. We're not the only ones that get divorced. White people get divorced. Other people get divorced. So thank you, sis, for being authentic in you and sharing that journey with you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Right on. I love the title, Moving the Finish Line. How'd you get the I love that. I love that. How did you get there?
So I'm gonna share it from my experience. I am a Christian, so a lot of the work that I do is faith-based, but I do a lot of conventional work too. So if you're out there listening and you're like, that ain't me, that's cool, that's all right. I believe in healthy relationships across the board.
Right.
But I was out walking after my divorce and I was angry with God, just transparent.
Mm,
I was mad
mm,
because as someone who had been raised in church, I was currently on staff at my second church. So I'm that person that you went to be like, pray for my marriage. And
right.
here I am, going through my third divorce. And I was mad. I was like, God, I ain't talking to you, which is funny because I'm
Mm,
talking to him, telling him I'm talking to him. But I was like, God, I'm mad at you. Like I did all the right things, right? We talk about, doing all the right things. And here I am divorced for the third time. And basically, what I got in that moment was whatever you believe in, whether it's God, universe, whatever, is that there is this positive finish line, this
mm,
positive trajectory for every area
mm,
of your life, whether it's your finances, your health, your relationships, whatever it may be, there's this positive like path that I believe we're supposed to walk. Well, because of whether it's life decisions, things that happen in our childhood, that finish line, that path gets shifted. So now
mm,
we're down this path that we never were supposed to walk, right? And so for me, it was relationships. I had a good job. I had built 3 homes. I had traveled the world, but it was this one area, this one path. And what I got at that time was you need to move that finish line. You're running towards
mm,
a finish line that's negative. You need to move it back to where the universe, whatever, intended it to be. And so, really, it's literally saying, I'm just going to make the choice and the decisions to change the path that I'm on, to change the trajectory of where these relationships are going. And so
mhm.
that's really the premise of Move the Finish Line.
That's awesome. I'm a big believer in it's okay to begin again.
Mhm.
Uh, whether that interconnectedness is with relationships, your finances, your career, even the relationship, not just in the sense of your spouse or your loved one, but even with your children, your grandparents, family members, or what have you. So again, I think that's phenomenal. I commend you for that. I think it took a lot to. I thank you for being exploratory for the title because I think the title is to me. I'm a big believer in words and how words are used and where they're placed at in the structure of trying to, send a message. So I really, really, truly love Move the Finish Line. Um, I want to get to the nuts and bolts of your Move the Finish Line and the energy. And I understand, you divorce is the recovery. Can we talk about the stats right quick of marriage really quick, if you don't mind? And I want you to give your input on this, or where your stance is. So I did just some research really quick. Today, currently, in the Black community, Black people are married at 31%, right? You narrow that down and we go, men are at 34%, Black women are at 28. You juxtapose that to 1950, and I did that specifically that year, 1950, 1960, because that's before integration of civil rights. So before that, we're at 64% of Black men were married, 62% of Black women were married, and then a total of 61. Does that sound right? I mean, anything? I mean, it seems like we're going the wrong way.
Yeah, those numbers do sound right, unfortunately. And I don't think that there's this one cause, right?
Okay.
Anytime we look at these numbers, I've studied divorce rates and even the rate now, like you said, of people, Black and white and others who are choosing not to marry. And I think it is a collection of things. I think one, really looking at the purpose of marriage when we talk about now compared to like 50, 60 years ago, a big part of it, I think, is women have more options. And, 50 years, 100 years ago, particularly as a woman, you could not accomplish the things that we can accomplish now as a single woman. So not to say that people didn't believe in marriage and all those things, but there's so many reasons why we marry. So I think that's part of it, is that women have a choice. I think also that we've seen marriage portrayed in these different lights, right? So you have a community where marriage is like, marriage is great. And then you might have this community where marriage is oppressive. And then you have this community of, well, this is what marriage is supposed to look like. And so I think that as we have been given more choices, been given more opportunities, a lot of times we don't see marriage as a benefit, right? I talk to a lot of people. Marriage is a piece of paper. I can commit to this person, regardless as to how you believe what you believe. But we don't see marriage as the end all be all anymore for a relationship.
I want to go back to your first. Look, I know it may not be the first reason, but you brought up this, like, the independent factor with the more opportunities for women, because like you said, there was a time when there weren't social economical mobility growth pathways for women, but now there are. And I'm gonna bring it back, but I gotta. Do you think that some men, I mean, because of this whole alpha syndrome, this whole ego thing, are maybe timid, scared, or shunned away from marriage because the woman has the capability of doing and being better? Dare I say?
That's a great question. So I think that is true in some cases, and a lot of it goes back to what we were taught growing up. So I've talked to women who, you were raised to be a wife, like that. That's it. You were raised, make sure you can cook and clean. And let me say this, there's nothing wrong with wanting marriage. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a spouse, and make that very clear. I am pro-marriage. Where my concern comes into play is when we are taught, that this is your role, like your purpose in life is to be a wife. And I just don't agree with that across the board, right? I think being a wife can be part of your purpose, but that is not your purpose.
Let me say this to that, because please hold that thought. If that was the case, then how come we weren't indoctrinating young men to be husbands? I'm done. I'm gonna drop the mic. I'm done with the show, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.
I think that there was a time when we were doing that.
Okay.
Where, and once again, we go back to a lot of the opportunities that were just afforded to not just Black people, but people. So to answer your question with a long answer, I do think that there's something to be said about being able to be a man that can support a woman who is pursuing her career and these different things, right? So I've dated people. I'm an entrepreneur. Like I said, I've traveled the world. I'm very much, I'll put it this way, I'm very much independent in my business life, but at home, I just want to be a girl. And
Absolutely.
so one of the things that happened with me personally is because I was in leadership roles, I would date men and they would see me one way in this leadership role. But then when they got to know me, and like I said, at home, I just want to be the girl. It was like, but I expect you to be what I see on stage, or I expect you to be,
Mm,
and that is part of who I am, right?
mm.
And so I do think that that does play a part in that, in a man almost feeling like she's too independent.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Too strong. Too
too
strong.
strong. Yeah.
Um, I'm not going to even go here, but I'm gonna just throw it out there. It sounds like some code switching. Things are going on, and that's totally fine. That's the life we live. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't understand that. You know what I'm saying? In an environment where you have, especially a black woman, I see it with my wife every single day. In a area dominated by white males, you have to be strong. You have
Yeah.
to be confident. And then, like you said, when I come home, I need to, like my wife's, I need a safe harbor, and then I want to be the
Yes.
little girl, right? So I understand that.
Yes.
Um, now I thank you for sharing the thoughts on marriage. And here's what hit me now. We talk about the divorce rate, right?
Mhm.
Where your recovery comes in at. What shocked me is it's not, I guess I don't know if it's a shock or not. I'm a divorcee one. Um, and I didn't even really understand the trauma that had on me.
Mhm.
Trying to do the right thing there, but I digress. So divorced now, we're at black women 24%, and black men are at 22%. And what's crazy is if we go back to the original numbers of where we're at with black women being married at only 28%, but then 24% of them are getting divorced, right? Like, what's that impact? I mean, because, and help me, is it, why do we get divorced?
Oh,
I'm
there's
curious.
so many reasons. So many reasons.
I want,
Um,
let's say this. Let's take off the adultery and
yeah,
all of
yeah,
that stuff. Okay. Because I think that's the low hanging fruit.
right.
Okay. Let's get to the nuts and bolts. Let's get to the root cause. What,
Root
from
cause.
your expertise, why are we getting divorced at such enormous numbers?
So, and let me share this. Any answer that I give, I'm speaking from three perspectives: my
Correct.
personal journey, my education, because I did go to school for what I do, and the clients that I have worked with over the last 5 years. So
Mhm.
there we go.
There we
So
go.
I think it's really two things. One, and this is going to sound terrible because we can. Um,
Right.
it goes back to, because women are 78% of the women are the ones who file for divorce. Um, and a big part of that, I think, is because we have options, right? Now, let me say this.
Wow.
I don't promote divorce. I am pro marriage. I believe that you should fight for your marriage, but I also believe that divorce can be an answered prayer in some situations.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
believe the biggest reason is because we have options. And unfortunately, many of us do not know what healthy relationships look like. We don't know what it takes
Bingo.
to have a healthy relationship. And in some cases, the easy way is to say, well, I'm up, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Because I have choices.
Mhm. Mhm.
We look at, not to knock anyone's grandparents, but our grandparents. And I had two sets of grandparents that had a wonderful relationship. But I've also talked to people who were married for 50 years and they were miserable for 50 years because,
Mhm.
right, I stayed for the kids, I was uneducated, all these things. So I think the first answer is we have choices. Now, second answer being, so when I started doing this work 5 years ago, I would talk to marriage therapists, marriage counselors, psychologists, and I would say, when you guys talk to married people, especially like those first 5 years, what issues are you seeing? Like,
Yeah.
what's happening, right?
I was going to ask you that.
The biggest answer that I got in a nutshell was, we are not seeing marriage issues. We're seeing single issues that weren't dealt with while they were single. So now
Bingo.
they're married. They don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. So instead of, we're going to like, fight for this, we're going to, I'm getting divorced. And
Mhm.
so it's almost too easy, right? It's
Mhm.
too easy. And so that's why I advocate as a relationship coach. The very, very, very first relationship that I coach my clients on is the relationship with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When I have a client who is coming out of the trauma of heartbreak, which might be divorce, widow, or just the cycle of unhealthy relationships, the very first relationship we work on is the relationship with yourself. Because we are so quick to jump into other relationships thinking it's going to fix all these things within us. And you know this, you've been married, anyone's been in a relationship, those small things are going to be huge things in that relationship. And so I think the reason why, divorce is so high is that we get into relationships, we get into marriages, not understanding, what healthy relationships look like and what they take to
Mm-hmm.
make them work. And so we get in there and it's easy. I'm up. I'm
Mm-hmm.
divorced. Now, let me say this. That was not my stance in my relationship. I never went into a marriage saying, well, I can just get divorced, even the third time, right? I went
Right,
into it
right.
thinking this is it. But what I realized after the third one was that because I didn't know what healthy relationships look like, I didn't know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we're in here trying to
Mm-hmm.
figure it out together, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I don't regret any of my marriages or
Right, right, right.
divorces because I don't think they were the best for me. But it wasn't this. I just woke up and was like, I'm up. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's easy.
Wow. I mean, so I'm note taking as we go, and just your question, what does it take? You know what I'm saying? If you don't, so I come from my mother and father divorced when I was 2. Never seen them together. You know what I'm saying? Uh, of course, there's the trauma to your point of like, what does a healthy relationship look like? Right. And we kind of, as humans, we model what we see. Right. And, to be fully transparent, you only know what you know. You know what I'm saying? And one of my biggest challenges with me and my most beautiful been married over 20 years now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's not easy to this day. It's not easy. We still work. We both come from a different environment. To your point about we never address the single individual trauma we each brought into the relationship, right? And now here we are trying to put it all on the same wavelength. So I had to apologize. And excuse me really quick. I just need this. I had to apologize to a lot of people in my life, especially my most beautiful, because to my question to you earlier about like, how young women back in the day were raised to be a woman. Well, I wasn't raised to be a husband. Um, my older cousins, my uncles taught me to be tough, to be strong, to be hard. You hide your feelings and all of these things. They never taught me how to hold a girl's hand. They never taught me the fragility of a woman's heart. So I brought all of that with me. You know what I'm saying? I want to ask you this question because you brought it up about like going to another relationship thinking that will heal it. Has there ever been discussions about conflict resolution? I mean, because that's if we're gonna part ways, like you said, we out. I ain't got time. Is there discussions about conflict resolution? Has that come up in your expertise in your conversations?
Absolutely. When I coach someone, the one of the first things I ask them is, tell me about your relationship. Tell me how you got in it and tell me
Mm,
how you got
mm,
out of it.
mm.
And answering those 2 questions will open the door to so many answers as to why that relationship failed, how we got into it, and how we got out of it.
Wow.
I think just as people, we don't learn early enough how to communicate, how to advocate for ourselves, how
We
to
want
set
to go Netflix and chill
that's it.
immediately.
That's it. That's it. I don't want to put the effort in to building something meaningful.
And I
And
don't want to scare you away. I don't want to scare you away with my demons.
that's right. That's right. One of the things, so my daughter's almost 17, and you and I were talking about we're sports parents. And so one of the things that my daughter started doing in middle school, if she had an issue with a coach or even with the teacher, I would say, you send the email
Mm,
and advocate. Copy
mm,
me, but you send the email. You initiate the conversation with your coach why you're not getting as much playing time, why, what areas you need to work on. You initiate that. And so I think that particularly generations before that, right, you were seen and not heard. Your voice didn't matter. When I was younger, I talked a lot, right? So go figure. But it was, you talk too much. You're always talking. You're always talking. You're always talking. Like, stop talking. But, to your point, no, there's just certain skills that I don't think unless, once again, some of us did have those great environments where, those skills were modeled, but for many of us, it was not. And it was not just at home, but they weren't modeled in your community. They weren't modeled in your faith-based organization. They weren't modeled in school. These were just things that we were not taught. And so you asked a question like, what is a healthy relationship?
Yes.
And I came up with this little acronym that I feel like it's blanket, but it gives room for enough guidance to say, is this fitting? And also enough guidance to say, what does this mean to me? But I feel like a healthy relationship is safe. And safe is secure. So literally, do I feel physically, emotionally safe? Right? The A, it's affirming. Is it lifting me up? Right. And you know this, like every relationship has its ups and downs. I'm talking about like the 80%, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The F is fruitful. What is this relationship producing? Is it producing joy, or is it producing frustration? Is it producing resentment? What is actually coming out of this with us being together? And then E is empowering. Is this relationship empowering? And so, without digging too much, into education, I feel like those are the pillars of is it safe?
Yes.
And
yes.
I dated someone, my last relationship, which was a very healthy relationship, was with a gentleman who had lost his wife. And he and I, about 6 or 7 months in, we were talking about just our relationship and why we felt like our relationship was going well. And I remember him telling me, he said, because I felt safe with you to share my feelings and emotions. And we don't think about safety when it comes to men enough.
Thank you.
I read this study. I don't know how true it is, but I find it so relatable that men's biggest fear in a relationship is being rejected.
Yes.
Woman's biggest fear in a relationship is being murdered. And in the sense of like, like legit.
Whoa.
But when we think about that really at a core level, it is men want to feel uplifted and safe and secure.
Yes.
I can talk to you about anything, I can come and cry with you, right?
Right.
We don't talk about that enough. And women, we want physical protection. Like we want to make sure we are physically safe with you, but then also emotionally. And so
do you got my back, boy?
Right. Right. And so like I said, in my studies, in my experience, working with the clients, the things that I've done, it's safe. Do you feel safe? That's awesome. Do you feel safe?
I'm going to use that safe. I'm going to use that because I have been on this whole movement, especially for Black men, because that's all I know. I'm an expert in being a Black man. Is that we are, to me, we are not seen as the vibrant, emotional, wonderful people we are. All we're seen as is intimidating, strong, violent. We could be protective, you know what I'm saying? But we're not looked as loving, nurturing, caring, compassionate, empathetic, So I definitely do appreciate. I hope you don't mind me using that safe acronym going forward. I want to hit you with this one. Because you brought it up about how'd you get in this relationship, right? Again, me and my most beautiful had this conversation in the past, and I shared with all the young people in my family and the young people I come across, to the point of how you get into this. All we see is the physical. That's what we see off top. And then it's let's Netflix and chill.
Yeah.
To your point again, we don't want to have these real discussions. And to me, I need real discussion. I encourage young people. Do you have bipolarism in your family? What
Yes.
is your family dynamics like? You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? Like, what goes on in the family? How did your father treat your mom?
Come on.
I'm so serious, right? Is that when you say when you ask them how do they get in it, does any of that come up? Like, we never had a discussion. And I'm gonna be let me say this to you, sis, and please don't get disgusted, but I hope you take it with you into some of your therapy and work. I told this to my little cousin. She's a doctor now. Shout out, doctor. I see you, Dr. Fly One.
All right now.
I say, look here. You meet a gentleman, or any, have a conversation about period panties in the sink when you wake up. Those are the conversations we need to have, because that will ruin and kill a relationship off top if you ain't never used to it. Sis, go ahead. I don't know. I'm just talking.
No, what you're saying is absolutely true. One of the things that I advocate for, so after my third divorce, and I bring up the third because that was the one that was like the turning point, right? That was the one that hurt. That was the one that was like, all right, something is wrong here.
Right.
Because I had a pattern. I had gotten divorced at 21, 31, and 41. And so I remember when I went to therapy for real. Look, life.
Hey, because the other ones are just, hey, we just here. We just here.
Right. Give me a book to read. I'm good.
Right. We going through the motions.
Right. And so the first question she asked me was, tell me about your childhood. And I was like, well, I'm not here about my childhood. I'm here because I'm 41 and I keep getting divorced. And she was like, yeah, I know. Tell me about your childhood.
Going to the root cause.
Right. Get to the root cause. And so shameless plug, I just launched a podcast called When Love Comes. And second episode, I'm talking to a lady named Tiffany, and we're talking about how we get into these cycles, right? Like I keep picking the same person. I keep showing up in the same relationship. And one of the roots that we talked about is, you seek out whatever's missing in your life.
Yes.
So for me, a big part of my childhood was filled with rejection, sexual abuse, feeling unloved, all these different things. And so I would go into relationships with this mindset of, one, you're not going to treat me like I saw my mother being treated, who was an addict, who would be abused and things like that. So I would pick men that essentially I felt were weaker because I knew you weren't going to treat me like that, right? And then I would seek out people that simply didn't reject me, right? I mean, I didn't know about communication and, like you said, conflict resolution and, your childhood. It was just like, You're not rejecting me. I know that you're not going to put your hands on me. And you say you love me. Okay. All right. And so I 100% agree. One of the things that I advocate for, so I was raised in a faith-based community, and in those communities, you kind of advocate for, once you get engaged, you go to premarital counseling before you get married. Well, I think it's backwards. Once you feel like this could be your person, you need to go to counseling together. Okay. Because what happens is we wait until we get the ring, because now we've set this date or we've set this period. And so then we try to go to counseling, and it's so much harder to back out of that because we've made essentially this commitment. We're engaged, right? And so I advocate for everyone, when you get to the place to where you think this is it,
right,
go to counseling. Before you make that next commitment. Because now we're blinded by the ring, we're blinded by wedding plans, we're blinded by all these things. And so
we done made announcements.
Come on. We go to counseling, and instead of counseling being that conduit to saying, maybe y'all should break up, it is, well, let's just try to fix it. Let's just try to fix it. And sometimes y'all just need to break up.
What? just let it be.
Just let it be. Right?
So I want to double down and encourage y'all need to go to counseling before you even get to a relationship. I'll just say so. You ain't lying. Some of us need to, and I will say this in full transparency. I know for men, especially black men, like, therapy is like, I'm not crazy, guys. That used to be my stance. I'm not gonna go talk to someone and lay on the couch and tell you my problems, right? Like, right. And it's crazy how, as you evolve and you start to see things, to your point about the 21, 31, 41, how long does it take for us humans
Yeah.
to see where we're hurting our own self,
Yeah.
right? Um, I want to go back because you asked a question. Well, you didn't ask it, but you insinuated that if you don't hit me, you love me.
Mhm.
Um, I want to ask you this question. I've been pushing this for a long time. What is your definition of love? I think people go into relationships, and are you? I love you. I love you know. And I tell this to young people all the time. The heart has nothing to do with love. The heart is a muscle. It is a muscle. Its function is to pump blood. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with the emotional standard. So I want to ask you, sis, what is love, and what does it has to do with the relationship?
So, and this is going to be like the standard answer, but I'll break it down a little. You know,
Let's
love
go.
is action.
Oh,
It is not, we have feelings as a result of love. But
mm,
love, I believe, is not a feeling, it is the actions. And so, one of the things that I coach to is I say, follow the fruit and not your feelings all the time. And what I
mm-hmm.
mean by that is, and I'm going to throw a verse out there. So, there's a verse that says that you know a tree by its fruit, which, yeah,
Yes.
you know, an apple tree because it produces apples. Well, if someone's telling you they're an apple tree, but all you see is oranges, you might want to question that, right? But that's just it. Is what once again going back to that safe, what is the fruit that it is
Yes.
producing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because someone can say they love you, but do they even know what love is? Do they
Yes.
know how to love you?
Yeah.
And so,
Do they know how to love themselves?
yes, and that goes back to the most important relationship I believe you can have is with yourself before you can get into a healthy relationship. And so, yeah, I do agree that the simplest answer, love is action. Because here's the thing, when you really love somebody, that means you can be angry and forgive.
Mm,
That means
mm.
you can get through the tough times and keep going, right? That's love. That's love. That love is saying that I can't stand to look at you right now, but I'm still going to take care of you, right? Like that's
Right.
love. That's action. You've been there. We all been there, right? Like, oh, I can't stand you right now, but here, let me go ahead and
Ooh.
cook this dinner because we got to eat. You know what I'm saying?
Right. 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 I'm not gonna poison you. I'm not gonna poison
Right,
you.
right. But that is love. And I do want to touch on one other thing when you said about therapy. You started this podcast by saying, historically, Black and brown people is, we don't put our business out there. We don't share our business. I believe that we were never created to do life alone.
Mm.
Never.
No.
And
No. I agree.
so I am wholeheartedly in support of like everybody going to therapy. Everybody. I don't care
Yes.
what color you are, everybody go to therapy at least once.
Yes.
And so what that does is, and I like to share this because I'm a certified life coach. I'm not a therapist, but the difference is a therapist will help you get to the root, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I envision like your issue, your challenge being this tree. And that tree is dying. It needs to be uprooted. Your therapist is the one that is going to help you yank up the roots, like get that tree out of the way. What a life coach does is we come in and say, what needs to be planted there? How do you
Mm-hmm.
make it grow? How do you make it fruitful? And so
Mm-hmm.
I do partner with therapists so that when their clients are at a place to where they're like, okay, they're ready to move forward, then we start working together. But y'all go to therapy, talk to somebody. That's not just your
So,
best friend and your mama and your
right,
pastor.
because they're gonna tell you what you want to hear most of the
Your
time.
pastor is not your therapist. Stop it.
Um, so yeah, I was I'm that guy, like, man, I'm not about to go lay on nobody's couch and tell you my problems, you know what I'm saying? But so again, me, like I said earlier about the words, when I talk to young people, I don't even tell them we're having a therapy conversation. We just chop it up, and
Yep.
I put stuff into the atmosphere, hopefully,
Yep.
they'll take it. So we're a little bit more. I just want to thank you for your time. We're not done yet, folks. I just want to make sure that I thank you, sis, for this game. That's what it's about. I do want to just pivot really quick, if we could, and kind of just discuss the recovery process to a healthy you, a better you, not accepting blame and fault, and kind of showing some compassion and grace to ourselves because of the things we talked on. Like, there's some generational stuff, there's some personal things. You know what I'm saying? What's a healthy recovery look like? And I know, I think we talked before, you kind of focus on women, but I think is probably the same maybe for men. So what does a healthy recovery look like?
Yes, and I do primarily coach women, but I
Okay.
just recently started coaching men, and then in a few months I'll be releasing some new things for couples.
Okay.
So I started with women because that's who I was going through this journey when I started the work. But so there's a very specific reason why I did not stop at divorce coach,
Hmm.
because there's a million and one divorce coaches and they really help you to figure out how's the best way to divorce, how to divorce well, what to do with your finances and all those things. I wanted to focus on the recovery part because that was a stage that I never walked through before.
Right.
And to be honest, there was no one there along my journey to walk me through it. And I thought, wait a minute, I didn't even realize it was something I had to recover from,
Mm.
because heartbreak is a trauma and we don't look at it that way. What we say is, well, it doesn't hurt anymore, so I'm healed, right? I
Whoa.
don't miss him or her anymore, so I'm better.
Wow.
And
Out of
so
sight, out of mind.
out of sight, out of mind. And so I realized, as part of our patterns, right? We get divorced, we're angry for a couple years, but then that subsides and we're ready to move on, but we never address, we never recovered.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
almost like you break your arm, right? You break your arm, and in the way that you break it, you actually don't have to get it fixed to keep using it, right? Your arm will eventually stop hurting as much, and you will still be able to use it. But the problem is
It,
that,
it may be deformed, but
there you
you can
go,
use it.
right? And then what happens is we break it again,
Mm.
right? You start to see the pattern. And
Right.
so recovery, what it really looks like, and the question I get a lot is, how do I know when I'm healing or when I'm healed?
Mm.
Healing
Mm.
can be a journey. It's different for everybody. But what I say is, when you know you're on the right path is when trauma and hope can live in the same space.
Whew.
That's how you know I'm on the right path. But I really have, and this is in the book, I really have kind of this 3 steps that I walk people through to start that healing journey. The first one is what I call facing the facts, right? You have to get to a place of understanding where you are. I live in Arizona. If I want to go to New York and I put New York in a GPS, my GPS is going to say, well, where are you starting from? And so
Mm.
what that looks like is you actually having to take some accountability for, how did I end up here? And it's
Mhm.
not pretty, right? I had to, once again, what came from my childhood? What made me the way that I am? And I have to take accountability for that.
Mhm.
There was one husband that I still like, um, that I had to go apologize for, because I was like, dude, this is on me, right?
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
we have to take accountability for where
Respect.
we are, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Although our childhood abuse trauma may have played a part in that, but we have to wake up and say, okay, I got to own my healing. I have
Mhm.
my healing. So firstly is figuring out where you're at. Secondly is asking for help, right?
Mhm.
We are strong Black men, strong Black women. I get that. But once again, you cannot heal alone. The example I use, so my daughter plays basketball. 2 years ago, she tore her ACL.
Mhm.
And it was a year, literally, to get her back to the court. But that year was her surgeon, her psychologist, her physical therapist, her coach, her trainer. There was like 10 people in her life that got her back to the court. Same thing, when we are healing, you might need a therapist, a coach, a spiritual advisor. You might need your mom sometimes, your pastor, your best friend. To me, what that looks like, it's like putting a puzzle together. And at
Mhm.
each step, there may be someone else that has that piece. So, number 2, ask for help. And then number 3, and this is where we get stuck,
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
you got to do the work.
Ooh.
This
Yeah.
is where we get stuck.
Yeah.
Right? This is where we get stuck. We've got to put into practice the things that we've learned. To this day, I've been doing this work for 5 years. And when I'm dating someone, I have a trusted group of people that I have said, look, if you see old patterns, speak up.
Mm.
If
Mhm.
you see, speak up, right? Like, we have to do
Well,
the work.
let me add, do are you mindful and present and intentional on your behavior? I don't like the word behavior, but are you intentional on what you're doing now?
Yes. And I would say
Okay.
more so because I do the work that I do.
Right.
I'm
But
probably a
I'm
little bit
saying,
more
but
intentional.
that like plumber's house leaks because they don't
Right.
want to, you know. So
Yeah.
that's why I asked you that.
No, I am, and more so because I have a daughter that'll be 17, trying to set an example for her. Me personally don't ever want to go through what I went through before. So yes, I am very mindful of when I see certain behaviors and it's like, okay, wait, am I attracting the same thing? Am I attracted to the same thing? Is there a reason why I'm feeling this way? If something comes up with me, I literally say that you have the power of the pause, right? Pause.
Right.
What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? And is it valid? Right. So whether that is, am I feeling this person because I haven't dated in a while and I'm lonely? Or am I feeling this person because they are a potential meaningful relationship? Right. So yeah, I do the same work on myself, y'all. As a single person, I do the same work.
She said, y'all. So she talking to you,
I'm
black
from St.
folks.
Louis, so it comes out every now and again.
Black folks, she talking to you. When you ever get on the show and you hear somebody say y'all, she's
Y'all.
serious about that.
Y'all.
You know what I'm saying? I got two things before we get up out of here.
Yeah.
One, because you said this, I don't know if this is I'm gonna ask, can you change who you're attracted to? Can a person literally be like, you know what? I done been attracted to this thought or whatever. Can you change that? Can you change who you
Absolutely.
like? Okay.
Absolutely. And I believe that as we change, our preferences change.
Okay.
Right. So I was the
That's true.
person.
Okay.
I was the person 20 years ago. If you had brother over here that was fine with the record, that treated you like crap, and you have brother over here that had a college degree, I'm picking all the red flags. All the red flags. I'm picking all of them. Because it was fun. I knew that life. That was what I was attracted, right? All the red flags.
Right. Mr. Wrong. I think
Mr.
somebody
Wrong.
got Mr. Wrong. Hey, shout out. Who's that? Somebody anyway. Go ahead, sis. I'm sorry.
So yes, I think that we inherently change who we're attracted to as we change.
Absolutely.
Right?
Okay.
Once again, When Love Comes, the podcast. My very first guest, her name was Tracy, and she was literally, that was the journey she was on. And she wanted, tall, dark, and handsome. And she ended up marrying short, white, and beautiful, right? And that's her words. Go listen to it, y'all. But it's this incredible story about how we have these preferences and these things that we feel like we want and need, and most of them are based on trauma, when a lot of times we don't even know we want and need, and then it comes to us and we're like, oh, I kind of like this. All right.
Okay. You have, so can you change who you're attracted to? It's a possibility. Some of us evolve, right?
Yeah.
To that, a follow-up, kind of a little bit petty, but sometimes we kind of waiting for this knight in shining armor. Do we need to take the time to polish him up and wait for him to turn into he might be rusty like the Tin Man, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah. So once again, what is the fruit? Right.
There we go.
Because that apple tree could just need a little bit of watering, right?
Right. Some fertilizer.
Right. So back to that safe analogy, being fruitful, being empowering, the person that you're with should make you better.
Say that.
The person that you're with should make you better, right? And that could mean, yeah, brother might just need a touch up on the clothes, or we look so much on the outward, thanks to social media and Disney and all the movies, right? Like they got to come in the perfect package. But we need to be looking on the inside. Once again, what is the fruit of this person? Do they make you feel safe? And that's funny, because that's literally what Tracy was talking about, was like, I had dated all these other guys, but this one was the one she was like, I was emotionally safe with him. I knew that he was going to take care of me. And so, yeah, I believe that if we are with someone and we never evolve, that might be a problem. We should be evolving. We should be uplifting. You should be better because of the person that you're with.
The team is ever evolving, and it's a reciprocal kind of energy. Last one. because I always like to do positive stuff. And, you know, sometimes people look at divorce as negative and all of this, but it's obviously there can be some healing and we can grow, you know, and become a more holistic, better person, if that's the right word I'm looking for. But so I'm a big believer in Frederick Douglass's quote: "It's easier to raise young boys than repair broken men." Before we get up out of here, sis, like, what's some words of wisdom to the building the healthy relationship so we do not have to worry about healing?
Yeah. I think the best way, and there is no way to like guarantee your relationship won't fail outside of two people working to make
Right.
sure it won't fail, right? So I don't want to give this false sense of if I do these 10 things on the checklist, you know, my relationship will last forever, right? We're
Mm-hmm,
humans.
mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
what I can say is if you work on yourself first,
Thank you.
that is one of the best ways to ensure that you will have a healthy foundation, and then choose someone that has proven that they've worked
Mm,
on themselves.
mm. So
I
they got a
can
card. They got a card that's certified with a stamp on
Yeah, a
it.
stamp. I did it. Once again, follow the fruit, right?
Yes,
Follow
yes.
the fruit. What are their lives producing? And so I say this because it meant so much to me when I got this in my heart. Divorce is a death, but it is not a death sentence.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Your
mm.
failed relationship, whether that was divorced or not, does not make you a failure, right? You failed at this thing, but you are not a failure. Because
Absolutely.
I've met so many people who have, and most of my clients are 40s, 50s, and 60s. So they're, you know, in our my age range. And so I've met so many people who have simply given up on love
Mm, mm,
because you failed at a
mm,
relationship. And let me tell this, you are not a failure. That
mm.
relationship failed. I have been divorced 3 times, and I still believe in love. I still believe in happily ever after on my terms, right? Not what the
Right, right,
world
right,
tells
right,
me,
right.
but I still believe in love because relationships at the core are not flawed. People are flawed.
Mm, mm, mm.
And so start with yourself. And whether this is a man or a woman, what I want you to remember is that you were made for love. You were
Ooh,
made to be loved. Regardless as to what someone has told you,
say
no matter
that.
what someone has showed you, I am going to remind you today that you
Yes.
were made for love and you deserve love.
Say that. I, look, that's the mic drop on fire right there, and the stage explodes. You were made for love. Stevie Wonder, shout out. I see you, Steve.
Yeah.
Um, I love what you don't give up on love.
Yeah.
First and foremost, if we're going to have healthy relationships, you got to love yourself. I ask you, young people, even older people, you know, do your due diligence and do the work on love.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's a couple of things I want to touch on just before we get up out of here. I'm gonna give you a chance to plug all your stuff that you're doing, the incredible work you're doing, your shows, your books, and everything. But I do want to say this. Sis made a point, like, you know, you got to put the work in. You have to do extensive work, pass tests, and do backgrounds to get a license to own a gun. You have to
Come
do
on.
extensive work and do tests to get a driver's license. You have to write a dissertation and defend it if you want to become a doctor or a PhD, or whatever the case is. The two most incredible points, and this is not just Black communities, just human society, but specifically for Blacks because I'm a Black man. We do not have to do any kind of background check or pass any kind of test to become a parent or to fall in love and get married. You need a marriage license, but there's no work in that. You just go pay your little $25. So, sis knows sis has a daughter that does basketball and the sports. We need, as adults, as role models, to model the behavior that we want our children to see and to become. And what I mean by that is we spend all this time, sis can attest to this, we spend all this time taking our children to practice 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, 5 times a week, going on with these things, all of this time we putting in. We need to practice on how to love a relationship, how to build a relationship, what the work that goes into that, when it's sweat, when it's tired, when ain't nobody looking, the work you putting in. Yeah, it's all fancy on Instagram when you got your little diamonds and y'all a lot of water skiing and all of this, but what's going on behind closed doors when something happens? Let's put the work in, man, and let's put it out there. Like Sis says, let's air some dirty laundry. It's okay. We're humans.
Yeah.
We can't be perfect all the time, but our children have to understand and learn conflict resolution. And how do you grow behind these things? And how do you say, listen, I'm frustrated. And this is what I say to my 4-year-old grandson. He says, people, are you mad at me? I'm never mad at you, grandson. I'm frustrated. And we're going to work through this. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to make you dinner and I'm not going to poison you. You know what I'm saying? It's all of these things that we have to do, sis. And I just want to thank you for coming on here and giving up some free game and blessing the people with your energy and your knowledge. And I don't look for anything in reciprocal, just that you be fruitful and that you be safe in your life. You know what I'm saying? And the path that you're walking. So with all of that said, says, man, I love your name because I was born in April. So, you know what I'm saying? It's already connected right there. Shout out all the stuff you want. Your folks, your mom, your daughter, your book, your podcast, everything. Sis, the floor is yours.
Man, thank you for having me. I tell people all the time, I never take for granted an opportunity to use my voice. I do this because I truly want to see people get healed, get set free, and have healthy relationships. So if you want to connect with me, you can literally just Google my name, my website, aprilnowlin.com, social media, April Nowlin, new podcast, When Love Comes. So we are helping people to heal from heartbreak, foster their growth so that they are ready when love comes. So you can, whenlovecomes.com. You can find all my resources on my website, upcoming events, anything and everything at aprilnowlin.com.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I have to say this, sis. I never once in a million years thought I'd be here doing this, and never triple down on the one in a million years that I'd be having a conversation about divorce and the healing effects of it. So thank you for bringing that to the forefront. Black people, there she is right there. Look at that. There she is right there doing her thing on the show with your boy Smith, the speaker. Like I said, black folks, this is what I do, man. Like trying to connect the dots. Like we got dirty laundry. We ain't perfect. We're humans. You know what I'm saying? But we all can grow. We can all learn. And young people, especially you, like, look at us. There's a lot of things in this society, in this world, that's there to, trip you up. So just listen to us. We know a little bit. And before I get up out of here, make sure you go check out, because I'm about to, the podcast, When Love Comes. I love the name, When Love Comes. Why does that sound like a song to me by Luther Vandross, When Love Comes? But anyway, I love it. I'm going to go check that out. Make sure you check out the book, Move the Finish Line. I'm going to check that out as well. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like, go check out Sis if you need some more guidance, some life coaching. You need her to come and do some keynote speaking for you, hold a workshop, tap in. That's what we do. Before I get up out of here, you know how I rock, people. Have a conversation with somebody that don't look like you, somebody that don't sound like you. And if you shut up and listen, you just might learn something. Beautiful black people, you know I love you. We up out of here.
Shout out Bird. Hey. These people do not understand. I'm moving as fast as I can, sending my prayers to God. He doing whatever he can.